What's the most disturbing thing someone has confessed to you? One of the ex-housekeepers at my hotel was having a really bad week and was having a breakdown in the lobby as I was starting my shift, with no management there to help. She was living with her ex-boyfriend at the time, and he had been making her life miserable. After I gave her a hug and tried to calm her down, she took this to mean I was ready to hear. You know, this New Year's Evie fell asleep on the couch, and I grabbed a knife from the kitchen. I held it to his chest, and honestly thought of ramming it through his heart. I was like, okay, crazy, I'm going back behind the desk and pretending I didn't hear a damn thing. A childhood friend of mine got pregnant shortly after I did. While we were both very, very pregnant, she told me her boyfriend wasn't the father. She was white, he was black, and she was sure he would know when their daughter was born. She didn't tell him, and when she had the baby, she looked kind of dark, so she didn't tell him. Fast forward 1 year. She finally tells him, and he leaves her. She gets with another guy she was banging at the time and tells him he's the father. He's Hispanic. Fast forward another few years. She gets pregnant again, this time with, presumably, his baby. They get married, and the two daughters look nothing alike. Her first daughter has very ethnic hair, the second does not. She confided that she knew man number one was for sure not the dad, but she was sleeping with so many men for years that she didn't know who the dad was. Her husband has no idea. I'm not very close with her anymore, so I'm not sure how this is all panning out, but the Facebook pictures tell a very different story than what she tells. My cousin told me her father, an OTR driver, picked her and her brother, ages 6 and 3, up to visit him for the weekend in his truck. He was pulled over and given a DUI, arrested, and left the kids hidden in the sleeper part of the truck. This happened Friday. He came back for the truck when he got out of jail Monday afternoon. The kids were in the truck the whole weekend. One time, once things had died down at the end of a party, I was having a conversation with one of the few other guys not passed out. I had spoken with him a few times previously, but I wouldn't have said we were anything close to being friends. We got to talking about shitty ex-girlfriends, and I mentioned the most recent girl I had broken up with. I told him about how, towards the end of the relationship, she had started lying to me about where she was going, who she was with, etc. We had gotten into a few fights about this, and eventually we broke up over it. I never really got to the bottom of what she was really doing during those times she lied about, though. Once I finished my story, the guy said, "Oh, do you mean her name?" Yeah, she kept showing up to my frat house to have sex with me and my brothers. Fucked up, but it carried a certain bit of closure that I made the right choice to end that relationship when I did. My wife worked logistics for a shipping company. One day, one of the drivers said he needed to tell her something. "Miss, last time I took a load down to South Florida, I hit a man on a bike. But don't worry, I put him and the bike in a canal." My wife was freaking out, and he says J/K, she told the owner and manager, but nothing ever came of it. Girl told me when she was about 4 or 5, she was playing with a friend of hers in a tree. He fell out onto a rock and wasn't moving. She got scared and ran home. She didn't tell anybody because they weren't supposed to be where they were playing. Later on, she asked if she could go visit her friend, and her mom told her that he wasn't around anymore and moved away to heaven. Not so fucked up, but it can get you fucked up. As in high fucked up, but anyways, I have a part-time job at a hardware store, and this guy came up to me and said, "Listen here, man, I'm not gonna lie about it, but I'm making a bong and I need your help." I helped this guy buy parts to make an industrial-sized bong. I remember 85mm PVC piping being used. It was probably the weirdest thing I have come across at the store. Edit. Spelling. My senior year of high school, I arrived early one morning to drop off a package I needed for one of my classes. A 3 feet long rectangular package. One of my classmates, Mike, a renowned stoner, was walking in about the same time I was. He looked at me, looked at the package, looked back at me. "You aren't planning on shooting up the place, are you?" "No, not today. It's for drama." "Oh, okay, sure. You let me know if you were gonna do that, though, right? I mean, we're not best buddies or anything, but we're cool, right?" "Mike, I promise you, when I snap and come here to murder everyone, I'll call you first until you stay home sick." "Oh, great. Cool. Mom, thanks." I thought about making that call for the rest of the school year. Not because I was going to do anything, just because I wondered what his drug-addled, paranoid little brain would do. Plot twist: your birth father is your uncle. He came to live with your mother, his sister, and pretended to be your father so that you had a good upbringing. That's why you look alike. Edit. I do watch Game of Thrones, but unfortunately haven't got very far into the books. I don't get the God jokes here. Sorry guys, XD. I'm pretty sure my brother would have done that. When I was 12, a friend's older brother met me in the woods on my way home from school and cornered me. He was going on about how the girl didn't like me and started trying to touch me. I kicked him in the balls and got away, then ran the rest of the way home. Was very close anyways. Told my mom and brother, for years older than me. When I got home, bro went running out of the house. The friend never talked to me again, and I saw her brother the next day, and he was very visibly fucked up. If he had actually done anything, I'm pretty sure he'd be dead. I saved someone from killing themselves once. We weren't best friends or anything, but he was going through some trouble, so I invited him to stay at my house for the night, and we talked a bunch, and he decided it wasn't worth it to end his life. About a month later, I saw him on the street one night, went to say hi to him, and he elbowed me in the face as I walked up to him, then pushed me over and kicked the fuck out of me. Needless to say, I should have let him be those months ago. Haven't seen him since. I had the opposite. Every day, I would stare out and daydream of like bank robbers taking over the school and how I would outsmart them. Like obviously they would take hostages, and once they made it into my classroom, I would overpower one of them with some basic fight moves. If then proceed to take his assault rifle and go out and take back the school in a gunfight. At the end, I get to the main guy, who's pissed. I took out all his henchmen, and at our final battle, he would graze me, but I would come out victorious. And that's why I failed math. DC's the weirdest place. I've been there once as a tourist, and it was really surreal to see rich businessmen and politicians in their bespoke suits eating $100 steaks in fancy restaurants for lunch, while literally 10 feet outside the restaurant, drunken crackheads are screaming their lungs out. And all this is going down just a block away from some of the best museums and most famous monuments in the world. It's so weird from an American perspective, because I've met gypsies who moved to the US, and the ones here are just normal people. They just sort of blend in, so unless you're talking about family histories or actively looking for them, you never know. It's kind of amazing how they haven't integrated in places like Italy or France, let alone Romania. Yeah, but have you ever traveled to Europe? First off, I'll say that racism is wrong, and that I don't agree with the first statement that started this thread. Now, onward. Dude, if you ever walk through a city in Europe, you'll get harassed by gypsies trying to sell you cheap broken shit while their skeezy teammates swooping behind you and steal your shit. They're shady bastards. I met folks in Serbia that work with gypsies, and they said that the gypsies will break their baby's leg so it grows up deformed, thus dependent on the state for income. Slightly different gypsies, but I've got a story that I think is still relevant here. Anyway, my dad used to work for registration services for Cambridgeshire County Council, and they had an Irish traveller wedding come into the registry office for their wedding. They complained that a lot of venues discriminated against them because they were travelers and everyone assumed the worst. About 15 minutes later, he catches them trying to unscrew the brass door knobs from one of the doors at the venue. It's such a good quote, I feel it's worth it to post the unabridged version. Hawkeye. War isn't hell. War is war, and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse. Father Mulcahy. How do you figure Hawkeye? Hawkeye. Easy, Father. Tell me who goes to hell? Father Mulcahy. Sinners, I believe. Hawkeye. Exactly. There are no innocent bystanders in hell. War is chock full of them. Little kids, cripples, old ladies. In fact, except for some of the brass, almost everybody involved is an innocent bystander. My kid is 4 months old now, and he's a lot of fun. I still have a social life and still travel. I just have this tiny little person to share it all with. He's just as fascinated with a piece of paper or the feeling of wind as he is with the Grand Canyon. So it's a lot of fun to take him places. Nobody gets as excited about a walk as a baby or a little kid. Then again, drinking and clubbing was never my scene. Maybe that makes the difference? If that's your attitude, it will likely get better and better. Mine did. He just turned 18 and is going away to college, 1,840 miles away. I have a friend here in the US who is descended from gypsies on his mom's side. Even she was born in the US, so it's a while back, and he's a totally normal, cool dude. Of course, he wasn't raised in the culture and all. We'd actually joke about it. Well, he visited Europe for a few months backpacking last year, and came back pretty shaken by the ordeal. Haven't gotten a lot of info out of about it, other than he didn't think most of the Euro gypsies he met were very nice people, and he was never going to tell anyone on that continent he was part Romani ever again. A lot of people are making stupid comments on how gypsies shouldn't be stereotyped, but honestly, it's just that unique of a culture that you're safe for being wary. My dad told me when he was stationed in Italy with the army that if you come home to gypsies climbing out your window with your TV that you should just let them, because you're more likely to be maimed or killed if you try to act. Of course, you'll find people of Romani descent who are great people, but generally you'll find that they simply aren't gypsies anymore, as far as the cultural archetype goes, which says a lot. The problem is that weed is capable of producing a very dissociated and imaginative state of mind too. With just the right strain and a potency you weren't expecting, this could have been the case. I don't think your weed was laced with anything, much less PCP. PCP is hard as fuck to get for people deep into the drug scene, and by that point the people coming to buy things from you aren't coming to buy weed, by and large. I'm not saying it's impossible, just that the risk of getting weed laced with PCP is wildly exaggerated. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.